once heroes get to a certain point. It's the whole resource game, gold and XP. New plays open up once you get to a certain level, item, combination. It can be two heroes hitting something together. And I think something, the way I see it, very important is when the game looks rough or the game doesn't look good and we're only 10 minutes in or something, figure out what your strength is, figure out what is something good that's coming your way. I played a lot of Dota, so I can already look at something before it happens, and eventually you will too, if you play enough. This Anti-Mage Magnus, classic combo, a lot of synergy happens there. If you empower an Anti-Mage who has treads and a certain level, it almost feels like he has Battle Fury, and a lot of things come with this. He kills creep waves, he might even solo kill a hero. Killing a hero with Anti-Mage when you already have Empower, like this just puts you one item ahead, and you can be in a very grim position where the game looks really hard and you're only 1 minute away from crushing the game. Having one good scenario where you bring it all back, your whole deficit, your whole map position, you kill their most important teamfight hero and then you crush them in a fight. Like, there's so many things that can happen that goes right for you and wrong for them. It's important to think that it will happen, because if you think that it won't happen, this is when you're not going to see it. You're simply going to miss the chance. This is a replay from Sebastian, my teammate. This can end up being a very rough lane, but this hero is a typical comeback hero. He has abilities that help you farm a lot of resources, and there's a scenario that I can already talk about. If Dire crush and Dire are snowballing, they even manage to get 3 towers before Radiant get a single tower. It's the same feeling that I get from when I look at the draft or when I look at what's possible, also because he's such a good Magnus. If they win this one fight, even when Dire's leading, they're back in the game. They're always going to be back in the game. It's a very good anti-mage game. It's also a very decent Magnus game. But Dire, they do have a chance to run them over and completely roll them. And this is what Radiant should really watch out for. Many things can happen. Team fights are a big decider. Towers as well make the game harder if you lose them, or if you take them, it can make the game easier. Look at your items. People have a bad habit of looking at net worth. It comes from all the tournaments that we're playing and people are watching. Net worth is only bound in items. So a team having a net worth lead, it depends on where it's at. It depends if they have an item that actually does something, if they have a Midas or if they have a BKB. It's two different things. Trying to read the game for what you're actually able to do instead of some number or some statistic. Have an idea, get an idea. This is very good or this is very possible, and yeah, execute. If you then execute, this is when you're gonna really see Dota for what it is. You get strong and you fight. Something that I would call quite common procedure for Dota is towers falling. It happens every game at some point. Obviously, people like to stay in their lane and really crush it. And if they're given the chance, they'll probably take the other guy's tower if things are going really well. But what is more common is that, yeah, something was going well somewhere, something was going worse somewhere else, but people connected to the same place, and then they took a tower. A team fight happened, win or lose, tower fell. This has a very big impact on what happens for your game. If you look at the minimap down here, this is something that I spend probably half my time looking at. Really strong players, really good players, they also get very familiarized with the minimap. They become good friends with it. It is quite important, and there's also a few things and tricks you can do for yourself. You even have stuff for general Dota, if you're colorblind, to help you see. Extra large minimap, something that I love using, I always use it. You have the simple background. You can hide the background if you're into that. That's really weird. Simple colors for the minimap as well. There's a lot of different things you can try. You can play around within the option, but it is quite important that you become familiar with looking at it and using it. People often rotate. So seeing when one guy is off the map, or being aware of, yeah, this guy mid, he just killed the creep wave and now he's in the fog. If you know that he's likely to make a move and then you predict it, well, maybe you can counter it, or yeah, set him up, set him into a trap, or you can then move in the map the way that's very, very correct or very strong, and then also help your team to become aware of this stage of the game when the map's changing a lot. So when the towers die in this game, a lot of things happen, a lot of things go unnoticed. The main thing is obviously you lose a tower that used to give you vision. You also used to be able to teleport here. It also kept the creep wave at bay, which means if it went up to the tower, your creep waves were fighting each other there. They have the aid of the tower, and the creep wave is going to push it back. It's going to push the other way. You lose this, and the creep wave is going to push way further now. It basically means that instead of just being limited to this space, it's going to continue to go all the way over here now. And this is also a form of vision. It's a form of information. It's also a possible play because backdoor protection works on the tier 2 towers, and you actually need a creep wave there to ever take it, at least in a reasonable time of the game. Unless you have a late game troll, you can do it. But it gives you another play as well. You can now push to tier 2 because the creep wave go all the way there. It's going to take it and tank for you. And once you take out a lot of the enemy towers and you still have a lot of yours left, often it just feels very easy to play the game. You just have so much map, you have so much more information, and they might feel very limited. Sometimes taking a tower actually benefits another hero for a bit. It's a classic thing from Dota 1 as well. If you had anti-mage and they took the tower very early, this creep wave moving in a certain way, combined with them looking somewhere else, it might have actually benefited the anti-mage's game quite a bit for quite a while. So some positives can come out of losing a tower. Usually it's not a positive thing, but it's important to think positive, and sometimes it's actually true that it was beneficial for you to lose that tower. This is how the warding game works in Dota. You have the observer wards that they're capped. You can't buy an infinite amount of them. You can't just decide to spend all your capital on them. They have a cooldown. I don't remember exactly what it is anymore, but one ward will enter the shop after a few minutes. I think it's 2, and you can buy it. If you buy them all out, well, tough luck, there's no more left. So it's quite important that you also think carefully not to waste them. Don't place it at the same spot that you just placed it if they found it. But people like to move around after 5-6 minutes when some more wards came into the shop, and then they like to plant them on the enemy side of the map where you have the fog. So be aware of that. Think about it for yourself. It's very nice to have vision of the enemy neutrals, of the enemy jungles, or if you're about to take Roshan or fight over Roshan, having vision there, very, very useful. And them not having vision there, also very useful. Like I've said before, the warding game, it's very important. It's very important to find the enemy wards if you can, or especially if you know where they're at. Spend the time and money to deward them, especially now. Dota wasn't always like this. Wards used to give 0. Right now they give a lot of gold and they give a lot of XP. It's a big blessing to find a couple of wards as a support, especially if you get the XP all for yourself. And yeah, be careful. Just be careful where you place them. Don't waste them. But it's better to try than not to have tried at all, right? The same thing goes for the kills, the heroes. Over the years, you've seen heroes increasing and decreasing in value. The economy system has constantly been fluctuating. But right now, kills do give quite a bit. Team fighting is a big aspect of the game, and losing a fight can really hurt you. Hurts the economy in the sense that you also don't get a chance to farm when you're dead. So that's a very big thing. Other than you giving a lot of gold and XP, which is a big bonus, you simply just spend time not being able to play and not being able to farm, even if your hero has great ability to do so. So killing heroes, very good, very strong. Dying, not so good. Try to avoid it. So for the meta that we've had for a while now, since the bounty rules entered the game, is that there's a lot of clashes that happen. It's more of a forced thing now, because back then it used to happen almost on a mutual agreement that we're going to fight here because I'm pushing your tower a bit and not really pushing it. And both teams might just look to fight. Now Dota forces you into these conflicts, these clashes around the bounty runes. Bounty runes are quite a big objective. They give you quite a bit of money on the team. It gives you more and more. The longer the games go, they rise in value. The first one doesn't give you so very much, but it's such an easy objective to take. You basically click the rune, you use no mana, you use no HP, and all your team gets gold. So it's a very powerful thing yet. Like, it's worth fighting for most often. Obviously, it's not worth losing a fight, but if you can fight for it and win the fight, then it's really worth to try. They spawn now every five minutes, starting minute 0. So we've had the first one. Sometimes people are not ready for it and it's very scrappy, or it's just both teams decide, yo, 2 each, because nobody wants to risk the fight. Usually the minute 10 one, you have a lot more engagement, a lot more heroes that are looking at it. The mid laners might also be looking at connecting to this one. It's part of Dota now. Like, people are really looking at these objectives, these bounty runes, and they're willing to fight for it. Here you see this guy, he's ready to throw his life away to try and get it. I don't know if he dies. And Dire, they managed to... Wait, Radiant actually managed to get 3 of them, didn't they? No, excuse me. It was a 2-2 trade for this time, which is very common. It's the most common thing to happen, is that both teams take 1 each. But yeah, it's a big thing. It changed the game a lot. It's easy money. It made life better for supports as well. So to talk a little bit more about how Dota often has these different phases or stages in the game. The first stage or the first phase, you often know where they're at, or you see them quite often because they're on the creep wave. You know what's going on. And then there's the second phase of the game where fog is quite a big deal. People are smoking around, they're getting wards out, they're dewarding your wards, or it becomes a bit more of a game of predicting and guessing. I think it's quite important to get familiar with it, to try and predict what the enemy is doing, trying to put yourself in their shoes, their thought process. And the better you get at that, I think the easier you're going to read the post-laning phase. Like, what happens when people don't want to stand on the lane anymore? My biggest advice is just to start thinking, start trying to predict. Watch some replays where you don't have the fog, and maybe you'll get a much better idea of why they did something that you didn't think of during the game, but you see it after.